It's not just strategy. An edge in day trading thrives or dies by the trader behind it. Welcome to Trading Ascension, where the information guides you along the personal and spiritual growth journey toward profitable day trading. I'm Jason E., and in each episode, you'll discover practical self-development tools and transformative mindset practices to break through emotional blocks, mental noise, and self-sabotaging habits, so your mindset can finally support your edge. This show is for growth-minded day traders who want result-focused trading psychology and personal growth tools to sharpen their edge and decrease their emotional swings. If that's you, keep listening because... In today's episode, I want to share some empowering perspectives and supporting tools for top-tier day trading mindset health so you can elevate your trading performance. Listen, I should highlight this more, and so should any content creator who mentions trading psychology. Maybe I mean like emphasize this more or highlight it more. I need to talk more about how dynamic we have to be as growing day traders. Specifically, how dynamic we have to be with our tools and our skill training. And just so we're on the same page, when I use the word dynamic, I'm referring to the definition that says being characterized by continuous change. And these are adjustments, I suppose, reactions, and just being in a state of where you're ready to take on new levels. So as we are reaching new levels in the situations we encounter, we have to embrace new perspectives because every new level requires a new perspective, and we have to dwell there effectively and efficiently. So for it, I think it's obvious, right? Because 177-ish episodes, I've provided numerous tools to support where we might find ourselves on the path towards consistency. Now, none of these topics are sexy. And honestly, there's a certain level of professionalism, right? How serious one is taking day trading to even be able to digest the simplest of topics that we're covering here. This is a community where, we take a professional approach. So all the shows, right, and so many tools, they make it obvious that we have to be dynamic. We have to have a continuous change. But we need new perspectives and tools to embrace these changes. And so I think that makes it obvious, but still, I just need to say it, right? You, me, we need to be dynamic to be successful. You need to be like a ninja in one of those old school kung fu movies, right? The guy who's in the town square, and this was huge when I was growing up. Maybe not so much now. It's probably anime, but there'd be a guy in a town square fighting 30 men, and he'd have a barrage of tactics. You can't just, spam the spinning back kick. The same way one psychology tool alone won't help you the whole journey. Each journey requires new things. Hence the success generator system, right? You run it and you can get results, and you should run it. What do you have to lose, right? It's just a way to organize what you're currently doing. You don't have to change what you're dedicated to unless it isn't serving you, of course, or serving your goals. But I'm not saying anywhere, trade like me. I'm just suggesting ways not to fall on your face like I have. So today I want to share how to, and I guess help you to simplify the complexity of being forced to be dynamic to improve as a day trader. And we're going to do this by once again providing perspectives and tools that focus your mind in the right places. Now, those places today are tools to provide mental rest, psychological resets, and information that gives you the capacity to move forward on your path as a trader. We have to deal with these emotions as traders, and emotions, they come and go. That's normal. But if you're sitting in prolonged stress, worry, fear, on or off the charts, mental fatigue, dissatisfaction, or my arch nemesis, frustration, right? Then if you're facing those things, this episode is for you. I'm going to help you ease some of the pressure that you may be facing in your life related to trading. And we're going to do this in a way that doesn't slow down your growth process, right? That's an important part because all relief from stress is not the same. And later in this episode, I'll break down the types of relief that actually support your evolution as a trader versus the stress relief that secretly holds you back. The path of goal acquisition, it's rarely straightforward. There are different battles, different foes, different terrain, different seasons that we have to face on this journey, and they require different means to address them. And listen, I'm not sure when you will use these tools. My intention is that this information catches you at the right place and answers a prayer for what you might need at that moment that you tune in. I don't know when you'll need them, but I strongly believe that at some point as a growing day trader and someone focused on growing in this way by changing themselves, you'll need some of these methods to help you move forward at some point. So it helps me to have trading ascension tools that address not only trading issues on the charts, but also psychology and mindsets that we trade with. And also, life factors that affect this path. It's all connected. So here's a perspective idea for you today. We have current, I guess we can call them old or current, habits, beliefs, behaviors, and mindsets that are stored somewhere in our neural wiring. Now, these may have worked in life previously, or maybe not, but what's clear is that they will not work for us as a day trader. Randy Howe, guest I had on the show a while ago, he's getting a lot of traction on YouTube. He always says you bring the wrong mind into trading. So what do? Well, think about this as a glass of purple water. This is some colored water, right? Maybe they dropped in, food coloring. So there's a tall glass of water that has been influenced by this food coloring. This is our brain currently. And the purple in the glass, it represents our brain's wiring towards the current habits, beliefs, behaviors, actions, mindsets, thoughts, right? All of that. And I've heard of, Hollywood stars talking about that memory erasing place in LA. You guys ever heard of that? I don't know much about it. It seems wild, right? When you see folks after treatment, it's interesting. But for the rest of us, we can't just erase our mind. You can't dump all of that purple water out. But what you can do is you can overwhelm it with clean inputs of new water until the color slowly changes and the pattern fades. Every once in a while, there's a life event that looks like a chemistry experiment and you drop something in the water and it just changes instantly. But it's not always possible. But when we pour clean water into the glass, you start to see an overflow of that purple water as it's leaving. But you start to see that overflow before you actually see any change with the water that's in the glass. So the new water is quickly just merged into the old. And this is that state of growth that isn't easy. It's easy to get discouraged at this stage because nothing seems to be changing. And also it's easy to feel mentally overwhelmed as the water is overflowing the container, right? We're just like, oh, so much going on. To do, to know, who am I? When we face this situation in real life, it can feel and it can look like a step back because your attention is brought to the things that are flowing out of you, right? They're coming up in you, as we say, in the personal development space. The wild part is that you're not going backwards. You're being tested. The flow out, it has to pass that rim of the glass. Let's say that's our awareness, right? It has to overflow past that rim of our awareness. Yeah, I like that, the rim of awareness, because think about the subconscious might be the bottom of that glass so far from our awareness. And it's only until things get stirred up or overflowed that we bring it to our awareness. Whew. I'm gonna enhance that. I like this metaphor here, this analogy. So our job is not to pull the old crap back into the glass or back into our life with our attention when it's leaving. When things come out from you and they emerge in you, the old, the fear, the greed, the anger, any emotion that you're replacing currently, when that happens, don't get discouraged and fall back into thinking things like, oh, same old me. No, it's a test. It's a test. When you're tested, you're on the right path. And I've said this before, but one of my biggest joys in life is experiencing a similar situation from the past and showing up differently from the last time that I faced it. Man, that's my life Super Bowls. The reaction method, right? It's a true next level ninja psychology, especially in this realm. So we ignore what was and we keep these fresh water, right? The ideas, the beliefs, the habits, we keep that flowing in. And this is the approach we need with our brains. You can't truly get rid of anything, right? Every experience you have, every thing that you've went through on earth is stored in the brain and mostly subconsciously. So since you can't erase these things, all you can do is overwhelm them with chosen thoughts, ideas, and beliefs. And as you're doing that, if you break these rules of adding new or letting the old flow out, you may actually be holding on to the purple water, and you could be doing this for years, and improvement as a trader will continue to slip away from you. It will be slower than it needs to be, or it will be kind of a boom and bust. So here are 3 lessons. I'll talk about ways to wash away the old, that before trading version of you, and replace your brain's focal point with the goals you're now consciously choosing. Not the programming that you all received and we all received growing up when we had kind of no idea how this realm worked. So lesson 1. I should have titled these lessons. I usually come up with cool titles, but lesson 1 is just trading as a personality. Let's say that. Because one of the most important things that I've heard as a trader, and I don't know if someone asked me this, if I would remember it, but when I sit and think about it, not on the spot, one of the most important things that I've heard as a day trader is trading is a personality. It's a personality. You have to have the personality of a trader. We're growing into the personality of a trader as we work week to week. Now, although I always verbalize that improvement we undertake is skill development, I still resonate with that statement because of identity, because all things we talk about are very much related to creating the personality of a successful day trader. So thinking back to the water glass idea, how do we wash the old personality away and replace it with the personality of ourselves that holds the assumption of trading success or trading success being inevitable? So the challenge is mixed goals, which are mixed signals to the brain, or consistently chasing low tier goals so you can never wrap around the big picture of who you are and that personality. And a lot of times in action, this looks like breaking rules to win on a single trade because you don't have that big picture to tie to. So the solution, and beating a dead horse here, it's getting clear goals so you can create an identity around them. You have a financial goal or a performance goal for day trading, and you ask yourself things like this: what type of person gets those results? It's Tony Robbins who says that the quality of life is based on the quality of questions that we ask ourselves. So you have to ask yourself, what type of person gets those results when you're thinking about the goals that you have? And you have to ask yourself, who must I be to stand in that space? And your mind's going to give you answers, and you have to listen. You have to listen. You can vet them ideas, but you have to listen. When we have strong goals and an identity of this is just who I am, there is less reason to give up in the short term and not give in to old habits flowing out, right? With that big picture identity, as the old habits are leaving, and they're leaving because of the work you're doing, you're not attached to them. A lot of times the clues to this and how effective you are the things you say to yourself when you're losing, right? Or when you make a mistake. What are you saying to yourself? What is that self-talk? Not having goals and a solid identity, it makes it easier to give up. And again, I'm talking about the short term, right? You may never be thinking that I'm quitting day trading, but you might say, oh, well, I guess this account is done, or this day is shot, right? Then you start going into tilt just because of a drawdown. So we have to ask, why am I doing this? Ask yourself powerful questions. Why am I doing this? I just did this on Friday to myself, right? Got off kilter, man. I let some things from other aspects of life flow into the charts. And then at the end, right, it was past where I should have stopped. It wasn't to ruin, right? So my baseline is higher. We'll talk about baseline. I think that's a good thing to bring up later. But I asked myself, why am I doing this? Why did you do that? Like, I looked at the chart, I looked at the entry, and luckily the entry was in a place where it wasn't filled immediately. And I said, why are you doing this? So if we're doing that and asking these questions consistently, we can ward off making bad decisions that serve old versions of ourselves. We hit the charts thinking, how aware can I be today as a goal? How long can I ward off autopilot? Get on the path of these questions and bringing consciousness, or like Jared Tendner says, injecting logic into situations. Do that and don't give up when you face setbacks, because that's the path. And like I always say, I think a lot of these tools point to the path. Your job is twofold. One, to not get stuck looking at my finger, right? Judging me or thinking about me when I'm pointing to the path. And then two is to embrace your own path and do the work that's necessary. If you do those things, I just think this information is so powerful. So here are some action steps. A trader with a strong identity and clear goal will use tools like this to bring awareness. First off, breathing exercises. And I beat this down. I know it, but you have to do it. Just like you breathe when you're working out, right? I don't know if you squat or if you bench press, right? You have to have a rhythmic breathing pattern that ensures your muscles don't fatigue early, right? As that, the ADP turns to ATP and the lactic acid starts forming and the natural creatine that your body has starts to break down, right? You start to feel that burn. No, the burn is actually muscle growth, right? New research says, which we didn't know. I guess we kind of always knew, like, oh, you're going to get that burn. But now that burn is literally muscle growth. But anyway, I'm getting on a workout tangent. What you have to do is breathe deeply, similar to how you work out. Breathing deeply from the belly while day trading is a game changer. And for me, it's fun to see how long that you can go before you let life breathe you. Man, thank the creator that we don't always have to breathe ourselves. Some of us would die with our, weekend attention spans in this day and age. But while you trade, practice consciously deep breathing, because you have to remember, and this is a fact, shallow breathing is always teamed up with shallow thinking. Now, you can train it to be a better thinker when you're fatigued, but they are twins. They show up together. You see one, you're going to see the other. I promise you, if you notice one and you look for the other, it's going to be there. So you'll move your I guess your baseline for that, right? So you stop and think like, let's say you make a mistake. Let me give this example. Something happens. If you stop and think about it and look, you'll be like, damn, I was literally holding my breath, or I'm panting right now. Right? You'll notice it if you bring some awareness to your breathing that it's off, and your decision making at that same time is off. They're one and the same. So when we're breathing on the chart, it fights off that natural fight or flight or freeze response that our body's trying to go into. Another tip here, stepping away. I was kind of late in my career to realize the power of this because of FOMO, right? But a trader with a strong identity and clear goals, they know it's okay to take a step back after a loss, after a missed entry, right? Just after a lapse of like, oh, I'm getting distracted, right? I almost open up an app. Let me just walk away for a second. Any trigger. Take some time, reset. Or you can get pulled into an emotional tornado, right? We all know that's not good. Now, on the extreme side, you can take a dopamine detox or do like an Emmett Fox style mental detox. I've tried both. Recently, and the only time I've did a 7-day dopamine detox. It was awesome, man. It was really good. I had my phone only for like emergency reasons. I cut out electronics and a bunch of dopamine producing foods like starches and sugars and a whole bunch of other stuff. I was basically eating like spinach and eggs and chicken, and it wasn't easy. I followed the diet and a regimen of pouring the clean water into the glass with these new habits. My results afterward were pretty amazing. I felt sharp. At my corporate job, sharp on the charts, sharp with interacting with just people in general. My recall was amazing. My focus was improved. And it was great, man. And it lasted until I fell back into those phone habits. But I kept a lot of it because I didn't fall back into all the old habits. But the bad eating habits, social media, those things like that, they pull on it. But you don't notice until you do those clean turkey things. You're like, man, I got a problem here. It's so elusive. The traps that they have us in, the matrix. So if you need a drastic approach to change, try one of those, right? Do it the right way. Don't put yourself in danger. But I think the mental diets, I believe, are 3 days that Emmett Fox suggests. Maybe not. It's been a while since I conducted one of those. But that dopamine detox I did for 7 days, game changer. So let's go to lesson 2. I'll talk about anchors. Alan Watts said, a person that thinks all the time has nothing to think about but thoughts. So he loses touch with reality. Let me say that again because it's that important. A person that thinks all the time has nothing to think about but thoughts. So he loses touch with reality. So the challenge, right? We can become lost in thoughts. We can become lost in the influence of social media and ideas in our head that can cause us to try to make unnecessary changes and adjustments to our trading system. Based off what? Right? What are they based off of? So you think back to the water glass idea. How do we avoid being a delusional day trader? The solution is collecting data in a way that keeps it real and reality based and allows us to make or not to make erroneous business changes and not to get caught in a negative focus loop. Both are terrible things that happen to us if we let them, right? And that's where the negative focus loop, that's where you see a problem and you give it so much attention that you empower it and you drop more purple dye in the water on that subject with your attention. So data is key, right? And data should be used as a mirror to expose hidden internal agendas. Specifically, what actions are you taking under the pressure of the market? What are you actually doing in those situations? When you're honest with yourself about how you're conducting yourself, not hiding the mistakes you make or the anger or the emotions you feel, facing it all. So here's some action steps to avoid the negative focus loop, because I think that's one of the biggest problems as we clear out the purple water out of the glass, is we start to focus on the things that are coming up and letting it trick us in this test, right? In this test for growth. So one thing that you can do, log non-trades and celebrate them. When you consciously skip out on a trade that tried to entice you, log that experience. Give it some emotional attention in a positive way, right? I catch myself saying, "Whoo, the market exploded. I wanted to jump on that, man. Almost got me there, market." Right? Or when the market just it's hinting at a move, right? Oh, it's just chopping up and down, making you believe it's going to do, something in the direction that you're biased towards, right? Because you're filtering what's actually happening, making it into a story that's maybe not necessarily true. When you skip that, write it down. Ooh, almost jumped in on that. Today, I skipped a trade that wasn't my entry, but normally entices me to play the game, right? You write that down, you celebrate it, and you start to build your attention to positive things. And here's a clean water pouring exercise for day traders as well. If negativity plagues you, limit your focus for 30 days with this. And this is actually, it's weird because I see those videos like, oh, this one thing changed my trading forever. I have those one things, but I have hundreds of those one things, right? And again, different places on the journey, right? The point is never let things overwhelm you. Just understand that the consistent input is going to force the output, right? So it's an overwhelming process, but you don't have to give in to the fatigue of that. And we'll talk more about that and later and why that happens. But what you can do is a daily journal reset exercise, right? So I did this and I stopped doing a lot of other things. And I just said, all right, I'm going to lock in my focus on this right now, this trading generation or a success generator system, and this right here, this type of journaling. So this is what I did. I journaled 3 questions before I went to bed. And this was powerful. I believe I did this just over 30 days because how the kind of calendar fell. I think I wanted to stop on a Sunday or something, but basically 30 days. So before going to bed, had a journal next to the bed. And the first thing I answered 3 questions. The first one was, what was a win today? And the first few days, I had to filter my mind because I wasn't aware of these wins when they were happening. I wasn't attuned to them. So I'm thinking back, dang, what was a win today? What was good? What happened to me that was great today? Right? And I try to keep it focused on the charts, but not always, right? How you do anything's how you do everything. It's all the same. But what was a win today? And I wrote that down. And then the second thing was, what lesson did I learn today? And this allowed me to acknowledge something negative that may have happened that day, but also at the same time, get the lesson out of it, right? The seed that was planted in that situation. What did I learn today? And then the third thing was, what is my intention for tomorrow? Now, a lot of times, people say, oh, you need to write this down and journal this. And then you're like, well, then what, right? I write this down, then what? These right here, I promise you, they'll be obvious to you when you write them down, their power. When you acknowledge how you won today, you'll feel it. You won't have to be like, oh, I did it. Now what? You won't have to do that. At least not with this one. Sometimes you have to do that, right? And I try to be thorough in my explanation, but I bring this up because I was just watching a video and he's like, write this down. And I'm like, why? And then he's like, write it down. And anyway, these things will be self-evident on their power when you do it. What was a win today, right? You're focusing yourself on something good that happened that day. What lesson did I learn? You're taking the negativity, you're flipping it to empower your journey. What lesson did I learn today? And then what is my intention for tomorrow, right? And an intention is basically, what are you going to do tomorrow? And you can do that based off the win, off the lesson, right? Off the success generator system. And it's kind of like our week focus and our trading plan. But you're saying, all right, tomorrow I got this plan. I'm focused just on, not doing this. I'm focused on doing this more. I'm focused on being this. So you're setting an intention. And when you set these intentions before bed, this is kind of a development secret. You take that information into the sleep realm and you give yourself a lot of time, the 8 hours for your brain to kind of mill over it. And you wake up with a strengthened position and a strengthened intention. And if you do this for some time, you're going to strengthen your positive focus and your intention focus. Lesson 3, practice mode to game mode. You have to, and this is such a nuanced topic. So I'm trying to I probably should have wrote more down about this instead of making this a rant, because I want to say it the right way, because it's a nuance. You have to get out of practice mode. You have a strategy, right? If you do, you need to make that perspective switch. And the switch is from always looking to change to always improving, more of a growth mindset. Now, the difference is because they sound the same and people act like they're the same in action, but the destination of these paths are way different, opposite direction. So the difference being in a documented system and upgrading it versus mentally claiming to have a system, but it's ever changing, not ever improving, right? Just ever changing. So what's important about this nuance? Think about it logically. How much confidence can you have in something that is only kind of real? Especially if it's something of your own, right? I'm not talking about a deity or something. Remember, thoughts have energy forms. So a trader with a mental plan, they can change it because the emotions have changed and the thought access that they have has shifted. So they've traveled right to this new state of being, excuse me, and they have no awareness of the previous state at that moment. And in that moment, it's easy to justify doing something that's not in the plan, but they don't know because they don't write down the plan. They don't really have a plan. In professional sports, game to game, think about teams. They aren't revamping their entire playbook. They're adjusting for what the competition does. You should always be looking to make data-based upgrades to your system, right? Competition is basically our market, but I can speak from experience. When you're in consistent experimentation mode, it's very difficult to have the confidence that won't falter under market pressure, right? Market pressure hits, you start doing some crazy stuff and you're like, oh yeah, I'm experimenting. I'm honing my strategy. Truth is, many of us unknowingly have had our trading improvement goals hijacked. The purple glass version of us says, nah, player, we don't need those shackles. This plan is in our memory. It's safe. Our memory's fire. Don't write that down. Trust your intuition. And it talks you into ambiguity, right? And I think I hammered ambiguity down. It's the arch enemy of a day trader. It's easy to make a reason for why you did something when what you should be doing isn't written and established as a standard. So your chance to become disciplined, consistent, it will never come to fruition because consistency is a reality, something documented. Or you could be consistent at doing different things or doing the same wrong things. So thinking back to the water glass idea, how do we wash the practice mode version of ourselves that fools us into this fake humility, right? And the humility is, I look for new strategies or, no, not even that. The humility is, I'm a growing trader. I'm all over the place with my actions because I'm looking for opportunity. I'm growth minded. It's a trick. You might say, I look for these new strategies every day because I always learn or I always test new wrinkles while I'm trading. And there, you're puffing your chest out. Listen, I'm not saying it's wrong to do this. This is the nuance. What I'm saying is, as a pro, practice has a balance. Every sport I've ever played, it has a balance to the week of practice. And there's a balance of installation of new things and working on the existing things for mastery. You can't become a master if you're not mastering things. Have confidence in your entry, your trade management, and your trade exit. And you can only do that when you actually have those things. You know what you should be doing, and you can judge yourself on if you're doing it or not. And that's painful, right? Sometimes we hide from that accountability. But you will benefit from burning the boats on this topic, saying, this is the plan. I'm not going to change until data says so. I would not be double-minded, right? Trading a certain way while always looking to trade a new way. And this hit me one time when I was like I was reviewing my trades and I was like, why? Why did I do that? Right. And I remembered, you were thinking this and experimenting. I was like, wait a second. My growth mind, my always improving is getting in my way. I caught you, but I couldn't do it without data, right? I couldn't do it if I have thoughts on top of thoughts on top of thoughts. I had to have something tangible related to the third dimension that said, hey, this is reality. This is what's happening. And I made adjustments from there. You know, when you are trading a certain way, but always looking to trade a new way, that's strategy and fidelity. And the path to an edge and the adjustments we make to getting our edge come from a narrow, deep path, not a wide, shallow path. So the challenge is we let our growth mindset merge with our need for excitement. That's a little bit of it as well. So we don't document our trading plan and we avoid the boring path, as we call it, that leads to improvement in profitability. And I can tell you from experience, and you see it all the time with traders who are honest. They say that trading can get kind of boring when you're doing it the right way. When we commit to a plan and document it, we become traders who don't have built-in excuses for taking experimental trades, which AKA bad trades, in the name of trying to figure things out. It stunts your growth in the area of sharpening your skill. You know, Tom Brady was known as a player. He was a football player for the football team, American football, New England Patriots. And he was always known for seeking improvement. But Tom Brady wasn't trying new throwing styles, right? How to throw the ball different every week. He was watching film so he could adjust to the defense, which I said is like our studying our market, right? Studying our system. Steph Curry, right? He's a hooper. He's always working on his jumper, right? The amount of jumpers he shoots on a daily basis, at least early in his career, was documented as amazing, albeit from different ranges, right? But he wasn't doing it looking for a new shot form. He wasn't adjusting his shot. He made small adjustments to his current, form as needed. Like, okay, I didn't follow through that time. Based off the result of my ball falling short of the rim, let me adjust this form a little bit. Not let me get a new form. This looks enticing. I saw another shooter who was throwing hooks from half court. Maybe I should try that this week, right? That's what we do when we get online and watch other traders. So to be clear, change, growth, adjust to the market, do those things. But what your plan for day to day needs to be solid. Changes and adjustments need to be data-based. If not, it's just thoughts on top of thoughts, and delusion will slow you down. Think about your future self, right? The version of you that has massive trading success. Would they say, if you interviewed them, would they say, this is the key? I got all the success by just experimenting for years and always changing my plan daily based on my feelings. Right? Does that sound like something they would say? If you asked yourself the question I talked about earlier, right? The successful version of you, what do I think? How do they feel? What are they doing? You think that's their answer? As far as change, right? Because again, this is a nuanced conversation. We do have to change. We do have to adjust to new markets. But as far as change, the more data, the more confident you can have in a change that you make to your trading strategy. Now, again, on trade, and the more data, the better, right? A lot of iterations, right? Hundreds. As far as trading psychology issues, a smaller sample of data is needed. If you don't exit the market at the right time 10 times in a row, right, that can prove something. You need to start focusing on what you can do to upgrade. But if if your trade doesn't hit or something happens 10 times, then that's not a lot of data to warrant a change. So let me start closing this up. Some general caveats for the growth path. I talked earlier about the wrong type of relief for stress, the type of relief and de-stressor, I guess, activities that set you back on the journey. And I best understood this when I studied Bill Harris. Take a little drink of coffee here. He's the founder of Centerpoint Institute, and he introduced a concept to me that emerged from physics, specifically the second law of thermodynamics. If you're a longtime listener, you've heard me speak about this before. Hopefully, this is a new way, but I just want to touch on this briefly since we talked about growth and change and the purple water we're forcing out of the old versions of ourselves. The law of thermodynamics are fundamental principles, and they describe how energy and heat interact, right, with physical systems. And I'll keep this short, but like always, I'll try to give enough detail so you can do your own research if this is something that interests you. Great topic. Reach out to me if you want some cool books on this as well. So the first law is basically what we know as the law of conservation, right? And that means energy cannot be created or destroyed. It's merely converted from one form to another. Now, the second law deals with entropy and open systems. So the amount of entropy can be measured as the molecular disorder or randomness of a system. And an open system, what that means is that the mechanism has an input and an output, right? So think of how a hot tub, right? Clean water is in, heated, goes into that tub part, leaves, gets filtered, either returns. Energy leaves the system from drainage or evaporation. And humans are open systems, right? We take things in and they leave. Think about food and water, right? Going in, coming out as waste, ideas being received, leaving as thought forms or talking. So what we know from physics is once a system reaches a max level of disorder or entropy, that system has three options. It can decrease entropy, known as dissipation. It can cease to function or break down. Or it can recreate a new system with the current level of entropy as the new baseline, the new bottom level, right? So we always want number three. We don't want to dissipate in the wrong way, right? And get rid of that energy that forces a new system to arise. And we don't want to cease to function or break down. And a lot of times that breakdown in physical systems, right? It could be actually that system dying. For us, it's things like depression, feeling like we're dying, right? And the overwhelm and things that come with that. So what I discovered after years of studying Bill Harris is that we as humans, we have that second law applied to us as well when it comes to growth and potential quantum leaps. We have input, right? Life, by its natural order, generally adds stress to our systems. That means that our life, we have contrast, right? Everything's not peachy every day. Trading also adds stress to our current way of seeing the world, right, in the markets. So once we reach a maximum level of stress, which is normal again on the growth path, nothing that we should be avoiding, our input in the form of information and experiences, and that input is just to name a few, it can have us respectively at a threshold. And at that threshold, we also have the three options of handling entropy. Option one, decrease disorder. Now, for an open system, you can do this by you stop the input. You get rid of some things that are in there that seem extra. The most common ways for a human to dissipate energy are alcohol, exercise, drugs, sex. Those are just a few examples. You can tell a lot about yourself about how you deal with stress. I know that some people get into chaotic moments of their life and they start looking naturally for what more they can start doing. They get pulled towards it. It's interesting to see how people react to stress. They're like, oh, I'm super stressed, man. I need to go hang out with 40 people. I need to get to the club. Or other people are like, you know what? I got a lot going on. I need to focus on myself. I need to lock in. And no way is the right way, right? In the actions we take, just different ways that we can do that. And I'm not judging these as standalone actions, but when it's a means of dissipation, they're destructive, no doubt. And why? Well, because of the option of the system collapsing, right? The sickness to depression is possible from those things. But the real solution is experiencing a reorganization of the system, which creates a new baseline, right? Meaning the level that you were stressed out about is now the bottom level, right? It's the bottom. It's the entry level of how much stress you can have. Before, it was destroying you. And making that quantum leap, which is a principle of nature, right? Can't really explain it from the tools that we have. It can be an option for you if you do the right things. So if you use tools like today's show to engage with new information, two things, are happening. One, you're managing dissipation as the purple information flows over the cup. And two, you're on a path towards a quantum leap. And these happen all at the same time, right? So this can be experienced as a random growth in trading results, these quantum leaps. And think about the times you've undergone this process, right? I want to make this real for you. Do you remember as a child that feeling of having your feelings hurt, right? And if you have kids or young folks around, you can see it in them. You look at them and you see, oh yeah, they're about to cry. They're about to have an emotional explosion. But as they grow in experience, not time, right? Not age alone, as they grow in experience, those same issues have less impact on their perspectives. So this makes me think of those pranks on the kids, the super mean, when they get a group of people together, they'll say, hey, we're going to tell jokes. The kid goes first. No one laughs. Then the next person tells the same joke and the whole group goes bananas in laughter, right? And the reactions of the kids are wild, right? They lose their shit, rage, sadness, dealing with a lot of emotions. Now, as an adult, it's unlikely this prank would get the same explosive response for those individuals because they've outgrown the system in which that level of stress forced a max out of functionality, right? Forcing them to break down from the betrayal of that prank. And just an example, but I bet you can think of things that used to bother you that you're like, whatever, right? That was the old me who cared about that. I don't care about that anymore. Here's the takeaway. Don't be so fast to try to get rid of the emotions trading brings out. You can see it this way. Your system can only hold a certain level of energy or vibration. When you feel overwhelmed from trading related emotional upheaval, you can see and feel life is calling you to be more dynamic, a more dynamic version of yourself. So data to do this quantum leap starts with 1, noticing what triggers you. What triggers you controls you, right? So if you're logging that, you're getting information for a quantum leap. And going down that path can lead to deep rooted identity flaws, right? What triggers you lets you know what's at the bottom of that glass. For example, I used to flip out and take terrible trades, rush trades when I had a meeting coming up. And I mention this a lot, but it was a real problem for a time, right? It doesn't seem like it now looking back, but at a time it was. So I needed to understand not only, why I was making bad decisions from this, but why something in me was resonating with lack. That's what it taught me. I wasn't in the reality of abundance. The market was still going to be there after my meeting, the next day, the day after that, whatever. But my mindset was sitting in lack. Like, oh, it's now or never. Got to get this before the meeting starts. Triggers give us data on how we really work, not how we think we function or how we want to. And that information is a worthy path of exploration for us all. Now, when we sit in heavy emotions, the key to elevation, just like physics teaches us, is staying in that state. Here's what you can try, right? When you are on the verge of losing it, right? Something you're reacting to, an event or an action that you took, and that, your reaction emotionally to that action, when that's overwhelming you and you feel it, again, go back to breathing, right? You're thinking that you're trying to absorb this energy. This is the mindset here. This is a mental exercise. And you're thinking things like, I can hold this. I am this. And I say these things to myself, right? I'm literally trying to absorb that heavy feeling and make it normal. I want my body to be able to handle this emotion without the negativity that it's placing on me. Like it's not even a thing. I want it to be just part of me, right? I feel that, but I can handle that. My vessel can absorb that. And it's kind of like, what you do when you hit your funny bone, right? You're super focused on getting through that pain and you're like, let me just bear it for a second. It's kind of like that, kind of. But you're expanding your vessel for greater functionality. Just having that perspective in emotional upheaval can help you settle into that energy so you can handle it and not have to dissipate. Not, I need to go get a cigarette. I need to go run around the block fast as I can to get rid of this energy, right? If you can, don't do those things, right? That are dissipating the energy that can push you to a new level. This is aggressive on the growth path, I understand. But you want to try to claim that energy and elevate your life. So we've talked about what you need to be dynamic as a ninja fighting 30 foes with different, seasons, different tools. And if you're stuck in prolonged stress, frustration, or mental fatigue, hope this episode gave you some relief that accelerates growth, not the fake kind of dissipation that might set you back. It's like that purple glass that we talked about earlier. You can't just dump out old habits and, erase neural wiring, but you can clean out the system, overwhelm the system with clean inputs, fresh water into that glass. Identity, building goals, reality-based data logging, documented trading plans, and doing that over endless experimentation. And when, stress maxes you out, Bill Harris, he taught us and he showed us that the second law of thermodynamics just tells us don't dissipate with escapes. Stay in that energy, breathe through it, expand your vessel. Those triggers aren't enemies. They're data calling you to your next quantum leap. So this is an action you can take this week. Just pick a tool from the day's episode, right? Again, hopefully one of them was like, oh yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I need it. Deep belly breathing through triggers on the charts in general, the 3-question journal reset, logging non-trade trades or experiences, or stepping away after losses, right? Just pick something, commit to it for 7 days, see how you felt, then do it again 3 or 4 more times, and watch what flows out. When it flows out, let it go. Keep pouring clean water in. You're not broken when you make these trading mistakes. You're just in a season, and the dynamic trader inside you is ready to level up, or you wouldn't be listening to this show. You got this. Thanks for joining me. Go and crush it on the charts and in life. Thanks for tuning in. Here's to being the hero of your story.